What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Irwin, and this is Beyond the Ballot, the show where I spotlight people taking action, philosophy, real-world solutions, and anything else that can make a difference outside of the masturbatory action of participating in the political circus. All right, before we get to today's episode, I gotta give a huge thank you to my Beyond the Ballot super supporters, Maxwell, Dave, and Dennis. They're at that super supporter level on Patreon. You can join them, become a producer of the show, get some exclusive content, all kinds of good stuff. I got some stuff in the works there, including a new goal to get some camera equipment to go out and cover a lot of maybe the protests going on, any event really where I can get the hell out of the studio, go check it out, and bring it to you. So check out patreon.com/Beyond the Ballot. If you'd like to support my work, I'd appreciate it, and get some cool shit. Also, Beyond the Ballot is officially sponsored by Project Sparta. Now's the time to get healthy and in shape. Greg Papanikolas is going to get you there with personalized meal plans, training, group support, and tons of amazing fitness and motivational resources and knowledge, including the Project Sparta Facebook group. You can go to projectspartacoaching.com and learn more about Greg's work and get started on your path to health. In this crazy world we're living in, our health is more important than ever. Get up, start learning, communicating, and training. One of the most important and often neglected things in life is your physical health. Get to projectspartacoaching.com now and get after it. Shout out to Voluntary Apothecary. Voluntary Apothecary is here to fulfill all your beard care needs. They carry beard oil, mustache wax, beard butter, and more. I only use their beard care products, and I love them. You can check out their amazing products at voluntарyapothecary.com. Listeners of the show can take 10% off your order with code DANK at checkout, and I believe code BEYOND as well now. Also, noticed since they exclusively were taking cryptocurrencies in payment for their wonderful beard care products, they noticed some people that wanted PayPal as a payment option. So I believe that's up now. And there's going to be some more, I think, giveaways and other cool stuff from Voluntary Apothecary. So stay tuned for that. Now, before we start this show, I want to say real quick, we didn't have any. Oh, yeah. If you see the logo up there, TheHomestead.guru, is who we're talking to on the show, and you'll find out who that is in the show. But for this interview and for a lot of interviews, it's not a video interview. So I'm just going to throw up the logo for today's episode, and I'm thinking about taking this to an audio-only podcast. Let me know if you prefer watching me interview people, if you prefer just the YouTube exclusive content and listening to the podcast separately. Let me know what you think, and I'll make a decision based on you, my wonderful listeners. All right, without any further ado, enjoy the show.
Professional anarchists.
You're getting paid?
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Ballot. I am, as always, Nick Irwin, and I'm here today with Bleish Bonandin of TheHomestead.guru. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you today?
Doing excellent. Happy to be recording. We're recording in the past from when everyone's hearing this episode. Just a quick disclaimer in case we could talk about anything super topical to today, which is Monday the 21st. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about the Homestead Guru, and it sounds like you have just a shit ton of other projects too. So we got plenty to talk about. Lily Forrester, former guest and friend of my show, introduced us, and she does some writing for you on Homestead Guru. So why don't you tell the listeners everything that there is to know about Homestead Guru real quick, why they should check it out.
Sure. I just want to mention that Lily does way more than writing for our website. She's one of my partners in the business, and she is really the backbone. She's taken on a lot of the tasks that my brain is not capable of doing. So Lily, I love you and thank you. The Homestead Guru is a collaborative project where we are combining our life knowledge and our student learning, question asking, any field of expertise that any of us have about getting off the grid, homegrown food, making your own medicine, wild foraging, homeschooling, unschooling, basically decentralizing your life in any way, shape, or form we talk about on the Homestead Guru. The goal is to remind everybody that you are your own guru, that all of this information, it exists within you, it's in your DNA, and it is your birthright to live as a sovereign human being on this beautiful planet. You have all of the skills, tools, and knowledge inside of you, and we can live in partnership with Mother Earth. And this is what we're trying to do, is just compile as much information as we can that is practical and relevant by making videos, writing ebooks, doing blog posts, whatever form of educational media that our hearts feel called to create. We compile, and we have guest writers, we have house writers, we have people who, do really interesting things. And then, of course, we like to feature other people's projects. So I like to go and visit intentional communities. I'm living in one right now. I like to tour garden projects, community gardens, off-grid communities, these types of things, and just show the world what is happening so we all know what is possible.
That's awesome. I have questions that I want to get to, but you mentioned intentional communities, and that was the kind of the flagship episode of Beyond the Ballot. I was formerly Enemy of the State's Dank Podstash, and I've rebranded to this, and I did an episode with my buddy Mr. Anarchist on intentional communities. He's working on getting a group together to start intentional communities in different places, kind of just churn them out, on a larger scale. So if I forget, remind me to ask you about your intentional community. But I wanted to ask you about the name Homestead Guru, because you mentioned, do you teach yoga? Is that what you mentioned?
Yep, I'm a yoga teacher.
So is that part of the inspiration for the name, combining homesteading and yoga and something like that, or was it just being a master of all the homesteading?
Nope. Okay. That happened. It happened kind of coincidentally or accidentally. I started practicing yoga when I was pregnant with my daughter in 2011. And I started this blog had an incarnation, just like yours, changed name. It was sovereignliving.com. And that later became a project of a nonprofit that my ex and I started. And so in order to monetize the blog, I came up with a different name, because Sovereign Living, we were creating a docu-reality show. You can find episode 1 on YouTube. We were being courted by television producers, and we decided to just keep it independent. And so Sovereign Living became sort of a brand of a nonprofit, and we couldn't do the Google and Amazon ads. So the Homestead Guru, we really thought about, what kind of blog do we want to create? And the idea was to empower people to be their own guru. So you are the Homestead Guru. I am the Homestead Guru. Lily's the Homestead Guru. And we all come from these different places. A lot of people come into homesteading from the desire to get their children out of public education. A lot of people come to homesteading from the desire to eat healthy food. Some people come to homesteading because they want to get out of the, political, violent institution that is oppressive and weighing down on all of us. So there's all sorts of paths into homesteading. And the baseline is your daily actions on a daily life, how you are executing your freedom. And your homesteading could be urban homesteading in a city with a community garden or a patio garden. It can be living in an RV, or like I'm in a converted school bus, the Bitcoin bus, very tiny, living, mobile. You can have a big ranch. You can live off the grid. You can live on the grid. There's so many manifestations of functioning as a homestead. So that name at the time did not overlap with yoga. Yoga was something I was just becoming introduced to. Now that I am so far on the yogic path, I am offering, like we do Monday morning yoga and different things that I'm offering to the Homestead Guru community, and they just sort of naturally merged together.
That's awesome. Yeah, very definitely good, empowering people in that way. And it sounds like you just have way more projects than than I even thought, which is really awesome. And I like how much information there is just on TheHomestead.guru, and how you've organized it. That's something I wanted to bring up big time, because there's so many different ideas, and then it's not cluttered. You know what I mean? You did a really great job organizing it. And you mentioned kind of you kind of ran through a list of categories in there, but it breaks down really nicely. And when I first went to the homestead.guru, I was figuring, oh, it's a homestead website. We're going to be talking about chickens and stuff like that. And then I saw stuff about, I want to say, Lily wrote something on Jell-O, and then spotlighting that kid who's a crochet prodigy. I'm like, holy cow, this is all just awesome, good stuff. And the amount of content was kind of mind-blowing as well. How often do you guys post on the site?
We're posting every week throughout the week. We have almost 700 articles. I mean, I would need to look. There may be 700 by now. We are just constantly cranking out content. Lily is one of our core writers. She's been writing with the team for about 4 years now. I'm trying to get back into writing more. Over time, it started with me as a solo blogger, and over time I became more administrative, more back end. And the thing is, I'm not very good at running businesses. It's just something I've had to own in myself. I'm a great content creator. I can create content all day, every day. It's what I love. And the Homestead Guru is more successful when I'm creating content. So that has been a difficult transition for me, is kind of letting go of some of the business pieces.
Sure.
And thankfully, we have decentralized our business model. We're running as a co-op right now. So I've got my dear friends, Lily, Angel, and Elizabeth, all contributing. And these are all women who are living the lifestyle. And it looks very different for all of us. But this is liberty in action. This is agorism in action. This is freedom in action. And no one is just talking the talk. Everybody on the team is walking the walk. And those are the only people that I want to work with. Even our host, Agorist Hosting, I pay my bill in Bitcoin every 6 months. And this crew is fantastic. So I feel really solid in that regard. So yeah, we're constantly putting out content. We also receive guest posts. People email us all week, every week. They pay us to publish like-minded articles in some instances. We have people that we're really excited about who give us content for free. There's just all sorts of really good stuff on there. Recipes, gosh, people love recipes. And Lily is always making stuff at home. I'm always making stuff at home. Do it yourself, remodel. Elizabeth is always working on remodel projects. She's a consultant for designing spaces, and she lives in an RV and she rehabs RVs. And, Angel is an unschooling mother who has adult children all the way down to I think her daughter is 8 now,
Oh, wow.
or 7. So there's this range of lifestyles and things that we are able to offer to our readers. And so it's just coming out all the time. Right now, most of my content's coming out on Instagram, which I regret. I haven't done as good of a job getting it over to the blog. But Elizabeth takes what I post on Instagram and reposts it on the Homestead Guru Instagram. And then our email list, we're emailing. We've got tens of thousands of subscribers on our email list. And so about 3 times a month, we send out an email. And that's where you can find hey, here's a new video on the YouTube channel. And my dog's barking, sorry.
No problem.
And here you can find a new blog post, and here's something from Instagram. And, which the email kind of serves as the compilation of all the different things that we're doing.
Sure. And we love dogs on this show, so don't worry about it. I got 2 dogs that make noise all the time as well, and chickens out back. So every once in a while you get a sneak peek into the lives
good,
of the
and we'll fit right in.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really awesome. That's a great way to organize that. I really like the co-op idea, and that you're doing everything through these Agorist channels. And it's now, okay, so I was going to say it's difficult to get to being able to fully walk the walk. It's difficult for a lot of people. Did you find it difficult to get that, I guess, decentralized and out of that state loop?
Oh, it was a very long and laborious process. I was a Ron Paul activist in 2008, and I was a delegate to the Republican National Convention, and I had my heart broken. I definitely was idol worshiping, not only Dr. Paul, who I love, thank you, sir, for your service, but Alex Jones, and there were just these talking heads that I really idolized. And then after meeting them in person or finding out that, oh, I worked my way up to the Republican National Convention and I don't have a role here. I am literally an extra on a TV set. I went through this process of depression and anger and fear. And well, if this isn't the solution, if politics aren't the solution, what is? At the time, I was going to the Porcupine Freedom Festival every year, and I was participating in, there's this rant competition that they have. It's up in New Hampshire, put on by the Free State Project. And they had this rant competition where on Saturday night, you get up, you give a 3-minute rant, and they vote on you, you know, who the winner is. And I was the soapbox idol in 2010. And I literally realized that I was an anarchist while I was on stage giving a rant.
That's awesome.
I was so heartbroken. Yeah, I was just so fed up by the whole system, the centralization of the movement at the time, because after Ron Paul 2008, things started to centralize into the Center for Natural Living. Meanwhile, we're getting down and dirty as activists. We're going to the state capitol. We're going to City Hall. We're like, don't centralize, you know, stay grassroots, stay rugged, stay true to your community. And we're watching this movement centralize into this organization, this institution that was slow moving and corporatized. And I was so frustrated, and it hit me like a bolt of lightning. And so at the end of my rant, I won't say the exact words I said, but I shouted out, I'm a mother effing anarchist. And it just like, it hit me. And so from that moment forward, I really began to pull myself out of these institutions. Now, that same year, I got arrested. I got arrested the year before as well in the course of activism. This greatly impacted my ability to work a mainstream job. So then I began the journey that was hard and long of figuring out how to create an income for myself without a quote unquote employer. And then I started learning about silver and gold. And then eventually Bitcoin came into the picture. And so getting off the dollar, which, you know, I went like 8 years without a bank. And then I got a settlement from one of the arresting officers, and I had to have a bank account to get the settlement. So I opened a credit union account, which I still have. I went like 8 years without a driver's license and, you know, this right to travel stuff. But for me, it really came down to my stress level. After I had children, it was not fun to be driving around with an expired license.
Sure.
When I was pregnant in 2011, my car got impounded for not having license plates, you know? And so it was like, okay, we're going to have license plates moving forward because we've got children coming into this world. And 2 years ago, I finally went and got a driver's license, you know, because it's like just the stress level of being undocumented is huge. But, you know, things like documentation, they're a big deal. My children, they do not have social security numbers. Their birth certificates, which the midwife had to file, say baby boy Bleish, baby girl Bleish. Their passports say baby boy Bleish, baby girl Bleish. And so they really get to pick who they are going to be. And, you know, they have passports. They have the ability to travel across the border on foot, on plane, in a taxi, whatever, without having this papers, please situation. Sure. And I know it's possible to cross without a passport. I did it myself in Canada. We took some friends over the border to Anarchapulco this year who didn't have passports. It's possible, but it is stressful.
Sure.
And so, you know, we all walk the walk in a different way is kind of the point that I'm getting to. And my walk has evolved over time. But I try to surround myself with people who are walking, and it's one foot in front of the other, and who aren't just talking, because when people are talking all the time, nothing gets done.
I imagine that you don't hang around on Facebook very often then. Because there's a whole lot of,
you know, I've ebbed and flowed on that, but yeah, I do. I don't even have it on my phone anymore. I took it off. I just can't, I can't, I had put it back on my phone in order to do live videos. And this whole Black Lives Matter stuff, it was so triggering for me for a lot of reasons. A lot of it brought up some trauma from my arrests. Both times that I was kidnapped and put in a cage, I was standing up for a person of color against a police officer. And I was ridiculed and shamed, not just by, regular society, but by our movement as well. I was called a poor representative of liberty. People really went on the offense against what I had done. And so to see all of these keyboard warriors getting on there telling me that I don't care about Black people because I'm white, or what, all the different things, this white guilt and stuff. It's like, wait a second. I spoke up. I acted out when I saw somebody being mistreated, and you all condemned me. And so I ended up deleting Facebook again, because I actually went to the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack, and it was a 9-day long anxiety attack.
Oh, wow.
But the beautiful part of that is that I discovered I had unhealed trauma from these arrests, because there is not a system for activists who get swooped up in the line of duty. There's no healing that comes. There's not a team that shows up and says, hey, you got arrested serving your cause. Let's heal this. And so, at the time, my healing was marijuana and wine and shame and sadness and guilt and fear. I had jail time hanging over my head for 6 months in the New Hampshire arrest, and it was terrifying. It ruined my life. And so, there's not a system in place to help activists who are traumatized in this way. I didn't realize how much trauma was still stored in my body. And this is what the yogic path has been for me. It has been the healing and recovery from these things that have happened from the institutionalized oppression and abuses that take place from public school and the church and law enforcement. I've learned the breathing techniques. I've learned the asana or movement or posture techniques. I've learned the stillness and quiet and meditation techniques. And these are the things that have brought me healing. And this path for me is something that I want to offer to our movement, because that recovery group doesn't exist yet. And so for anyone who's listening to this, if you've been through a traumatic arrest, I feel you and I know what it's like. And people don't understand. There's nobody who understands what it's like to be kidnapped and locked in a cage unless you've gone through it yourself. So reach out to me. I'm happy to walk with you. And I'm not a therapist. I am a yoga teacher. There are techniques to help you release trauma that's stored in your body. It does get stored at a cellular level. And learning how to release that and get it out so that you can really move on from a healed place. I believe this is the only way we're going to create the free society that we seek. Because even if you get rid of the political oppressors, the damage that has been done, it still exists within each of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's really awesome how aware of just everything involving that situation you are to take all these lessons out of that. That's really important. And you hit it on the head when you said that the healing is the most important part. And I've been kind of binge listening to a podcast that I'm really enjoying called Beyond the Bastards. And it's about all the worst people in history. And it seems like just about everyone who is a horrible monster in one way or another and does terrible things was abused. It seems like mostly as a child, and they're just continuing the cycle. And so I listen to these and I see, similarities in all kinds of other stories. And I see similarities to the way that some of these horrible figures in history and current day have acted compared to, let's say, people in politics that you see regularly now. And it's just becoming more and more apparent that starting with children, I believe, and breaking that cycle of abuse and all the things that you talk about with unschooling and free learning and all that stuff, that's got to be the start of making this massive change, the cultural change.
Yes, it does. And understanding that we cannot protect our children indefinitely from bad experiences. So making sure that they have the tools to heal as bad experiences come up. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in this society, at least here in the United States, where I was born and raised, is that we have this accumulation of trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And it's not that our parents are bad people or that our teachers are bad people or that our churches are bad people. It's that we have this institutionalized way of treating children where they sort of are brushed to the side emotionally. And, I think there's still a little remnant of this children should be seen and not heard. And so these things happen and they accumulate and children lose their voice. And they don't know how to speak up for themselves. They don't know how to speak up for each other. And so really making sure that your children are empowered with the tools to say, hey, that didn't feel good. I don't like it when you do that. Stop.
Yeah.
That is huge for children to have that tool right there. And, there's no one size fits all solution, of course. And, we're each going to have our own preferences on the lifestyle that we want to lead and the way we want to educate our children. But as long as our children have a voice and somebody is listening to them, and they're given the tools to handle traumas as they come in, they can grow up into adults who are capable of dealing with their traumas and not repeating the cycle. I think a lot of children grow up thinking this was my fault. And honestly, the level of sexual abuse that takes place against children in this country is
insane.
Shocking to me. Now that I'm in my late 30s, I am meeting man after man after man who is molested in childhood. And I am watching marriage after marriage after marriage fall apart because these men have carried this shame for decades and have cheated on their wives with men and are reenacting the traumas that they went through and lying to their partner. And I just, I had learned about this happening in a women's and gender studies class in college, and I didn't understand how prevalent it was until now. Now in my late 30s, it is just happening all around me in my intimate circles and in my, just my acquaintance circles as well, that there's a whole generation. I mean, I think we can get into the circumcision and just the abuse against boys. It makes me so upset because we are raised in a world where everyone says genital mutilation is wrong against girls and girls are the people who are oppressed. Women are oppressed. But hold on. No. That just keeps us divided and conquered. Both girls and boys are abused in different ways. And I want to honor you as a male who grew up in this world during this time. I know that the challenges that you have faced are unique and underrepresented in the global conversation. And I think we need to be talking about it.
Yeah, there's a whole lot to talk about. As far as, I don't know, that's a huge subject as far as underrepresentation and traumas and everything. I wanted to ask you though, because it feels like you're seeing similar things as I'm seeing. It just seems like this abuse towards children and people in general. And I want to specifically mention the sexual abuse that's coming out, stories from people and the massive push against pedophilia and everything. And I'm wondering, is it overhyped in the media? Are we getting more, stories about this? Is it being pushed for a reason, or do you think it happens so often that, and now people are just starting to be able to see it? The stories are starting to come out. People are starting to document it and talk about it more. Do you think it's being overhyped, or that's actually what's happening?
I think it's probably both. The media always has an agenda for what they hype and what they don't hype. So why they're actually reporting on this, I can't speak to that. But I do know that human trafficking is a huge issue, and it's not unique to the United States. I work with this company called doTERRA. It's an essential oils company, and what they have found as they go out and source high quality plants across the globe is that there are families who are literally selling their children into sex trafficking in order to keep a roof over their head, in order to survive. And so they have a partner nonprofit that is working to empower young girls, teaching them about their menstrual cycle and to not be ashamed of it and how to say no to a man and, just things like this. So, this is a global phenomenon. It's not unique to this time period in history. It's not unique to our geography. It's something that the human race has struggled with over time. And I'm grateful that it's coming to the forefront. I do think that there is something, for lack of a better word, I'm going to use the word divine happening in our lifetimes, where technology has evolved to the point where secrets can't be kept anymore.
Right.
They just can't be kept anymore. The elite are being exposed. And we saw it happening, in 2008, 2009 with the rise of the documentaries, the conspiracy theory documentaries that were coming up. And then it turned into like the street media journalists who were live streaming police brutality. And now these things that I was told I was crazy for talking about 12, 13 years ago, now my cousins are talking about and my aunts and uncles are talking about. And it's so commonly known and understood. I do believe that there is this mass awakening that was predicted by the ancients. It is happening right now. It is happening in real time. We are witnessing it, and we have the opportunity to heal as a species. It's a beautiful time to be alive in that regard.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it, because I and many people that I know look at it a bit more negatively. That's kind of the reason I took the show from what it was to Beyond the Ballot, though, is I want to focus on the healing and reaching out, I guess, to people who are looking for something else other than the two-party system, let's say, to start, but everything outside of the state. But where do you stand on, let's say, defense? Because the word I want to use, the group I want to use, the Hawaiian Shirt Boys, and the idea of just wanting to be left alone and being willing to fight for that in, an actual kind of hot war style fight, I think is something that might happen at some point. But where are you with that as far as reconciling that physical self-defense versus healing?
Well, let me just clarify so I'm answering this correctly.
Sure.
Are you talking about as an individual, someone coming up and attacking me, or are we talking about countries or states or political movements? Like, can we refine that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the direction that this country's headed with the left versus right, or even the way that Trump has been talking about anarchists, let's say. There's people who are worried that the state will be coming after anarchists, that kind of thing. Pretty much what I guess the essence of the question is if you think things could get bad enough that it comes to a point of picking up arms.
Oh, I think it's already there. There's a civil war taking place right in front of our eyes. I mean, you've got activists lasering the eyes of police officers. You have human beings having battles all across the globe. I mean, there's a massive global war taking place right now. It's already in existence. Now, I do believe that there is a role in saying, stop, I won't stand for this, and intervening. I also believe that our body produces a fight or flight response for a reason. Not every situation is one that is safe to fight in. So you need to pick your battles. I did my fighting. I gave my time. I was on the front lines. I faced police officers inches from their face, eye to eye, nose to nose. I did my time. And that is over for me. I am a mother now, and my role is to protect the next generation. So if someone comes storming my castle, I'm getting the F out. I am not going to hang around to watch my children get slaughtered or murdered or kidnapped or put into sex trafficking. No way. I believe that the human species was designed to be nomadic. And in yoga, we practice non-attachment. And I am not attached to this place or that place. Sure, There are preferences that I have on where I want to be and who I want to be surrounded with. But the second that somewhere becomes unsafe for my children to exist, I'm not going to be there anymore. That's just simply not going to happen. Now, if somebody attacks my children in front of me, if you don't think that I will fight to the death to save their life, then, you're kidding yourself, because that's what a mama bear does. But my job is no longer to be a warrior. My job is to be a mother. It is to be a healer, a grower, a gardener, a cultivator of creativity and beauty and art, and to help those who have been on the front lines to recover, because I've been through it. I was on the front lines. And the reality is, it's unsustainable to do it for a certain amount of time. I learned that the hard way. You burn out eventually. And if you keep fighting through burnout, you will get eaten up by the system. And we have brothers and sisters who are in prison for life, or for very long periods of time, for doing less than physically fighting, right? So, really, this is one giant chess strategy game, and you've got to be smart. So if you need to defend someone in the moment, like I did when I got arrested in New Hampshire, these officers, there was a little black kid getting arrested, 17 years old, for smoking weed with a bunch of adult white activists. And I spoke up and I followed him. And then another white activist sat in front of the vehicle, civil disobedience. I'd never seen it before. The police are dragging him by his arms. And he's like, videotape my arms, videotape my arms. And I'm following with the camera. Well, I don't hear all of the police dogs and cars that show up on the street. All the other activists end up on the sidewalk. I'm the only person standing in the middle of the street. And this officer pulls out mace to mace this guy in his face. And I screamed at the top of my lungs right in front of the officer's face. I mean, I don't know how his eardrums didn't blow out. Every video camera at the rally can hear me screaming that this officer has mace and he's about to mace him. And I screamed, "Do not mace him." I stood up for him. And it wasn't a choice I made. It was an instinct. My fight or flight went off, and I fought with my words. And when the arresting officer behind me said, "Arrest her," and I turned around and there was a German shepherd being straddled by a police officer, it terrified me. And the first words out of my mouth were, "Do not sick that dog on me. I'm here to document this." And that's what saved me in court. I didn't put my hands on the officer. I used my words and my video camera, but I fought. And energetically, I fought hard. I have never yelled so loud in my entire life. I didn't know that that noise could come out of me, but I made a noise big enough that the officer decided to put his mace back in his holster. So there is a time to fight and there is a time to run. And, we need everybody doing what is best for them at this time in their life. So let's not expect our grandmothers or our children to be out on the front lines. And let's not expect our veterans to be out on the front lines. These are the people that need to be healing. But the people who have that fire burning in their belly, who have the energy and the stamina, go out and do your duty. We need you. And we are so grateful for you. But you've got to walk the walk of nonviolence, only self-defense. Do not ever initiate violence, and never talk about initiating violence, because you are probably being listened to, even if you think you are not. So, that's my stance on self-defense.
Sure. Yeah, definitely being listened to. As we saw, I don't know if you saw the article of the two guys in Minnesota, I believe, who got set up by the FBI to quote unquote sell guns to Hamas. There were people who ran around the libertarian and anarchist circles that were set up by, I think, an informant and then an agent posing as a Hamas agent. That's a very dumb thing to do, to interact like that, but that's a good lesson to take away from it. And I also like what you were saying about everyone knowing what they need to do, feeling what they need to do, and the idea of the fight or flight and being able to be nomadic. That caught my ear big time in what you were talking about. And I'm assuming you're looking at hunter-gatherer cultures from past to now when you're talking about we're designed to be nomadic?
Yeah, and I mean, I think almost every single native community has some level of nomadicism in them, and they may have built permanent dwellings, but it didn't mean they weren't willing to go somewhere else if the environment changed, or there was a drought or whatever. I'm really interested in learning some of our forgotten ancient ways, and so I have been studying wild foraging, for example, and right now I'm on 173 acres of medicine. I am telling you, every plant growing here is medicinal, and I am learning from the earth right now. And so many of these plants offer potential solutions to things like COVID. And these were common knowledge back in the day. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not making medical claims. I'm not trying to get your podcast shut down by the FDA. But I will say this, that if you're having respiratory distress, there are probably plants in your backyard that will benefit your body while not adding to its toxic load. And that's a big passion of mine, is learning how to detox mind, body, and soul. Because after my activism days, I got bit by a brown recluse spider. I almost died. And I found that it was more than my body that was toxic. It was every aspect of my life. It was my relationships. It was the way I was making money. It was my home environment. I mean, I was in a state of toxicity. And so I worked very hard to go through and remove all of these sources of toxicity from my life. And now I'm working on nourishing, right? And so this is kind of where I've moved now, but it took me about 4 years to detox to the point where I felt like my body could handle functioning in this world without being trying to catch up all the time. I was so depleted. And I was also an 18-year vegetarian, which we can get into if you're interested. But I started eating meat again like 9 months ago. So this is what I mean by the nourishing. I worked to remove all of these toxins from my relationships, from my finances, from my home environment, from my emotions, from my mental state. I mean, things like unfollowing pages like Cop Block. I could feel my baby in 2011 reacting to the police brutality videos I was watching.
Oh, wow.
I had to unfollow all of that stuff. I had to remove it from my frame of reference because it was so toxic to my soul. And it's, one of the things we learn on the yogic path is that what you nourish yourself with is what you become. So if you are constantly filling yourself with negative information, that's who you are becoming. And so I appreciate your evolution. You're talking about, going post-political. This is so important because when we are trapped in that left-right paradigm, we're trapped in a fight. And it's just constant. It's us and them and us and them and us and them.
Yeah.
And who's better and who's going to win. And when you just remove yourself from it, it's like, wow, this is a technicolored universe. And there are infinite possibilities out of blue and red. We don't have to participate in this dog and pony show, this elephant and donkey show. Like, there are so many more things that we could be doing with our lives, with our time, with our energy. And some of them are really amazing. A lot of them are really amazing. For me, gardening, parenting, I could go on and on. Yoga, these are things that have brought me so much joy. Learning the forest, knowing that I can walk through and survive if I need to, that is a level of empowerment that no politician could ever give me.
Oh, no way. No, almost every single thing you could think of to do besides participating in politics is amazing comparatively. It has to be that way because it's just absolutely depressing and horrible to be stuck in that. And kind of back to what you were saying about healing everything, all aspects from how you eat, the nourishing and everything, to your mind, to traumas and everything. That's, if people don't, and myself included, I'm terrible at figuring out how to heal everything and looking at what it needs to be healed. But it's coincidentally, I started this path with the Beyond the Ballot at about the same time, maybe a little before I started trying carnivore. And it's been really nice getting away from politics, and I have never felt better in my life than the last month and a half that I've been doing carnivore.
That's amazing. Lily went carnivore for, I think, like a year and a half. And it was watching her experience and the transformation that she went through.
It's crazy.
And having her friendship and her companionship to talk to me about it is what inspired me to try eating meat again. I went 18 years as a vegetarian. And last year, August of last year, 11 months ago or 13 months ago, I got a hair test, a nutritional analysis, and I was depleted in so many things that all came back to meat.
Wow.
Animal food is medicine. Plants are medicine. We need the whole spectrum. And so I didn't right away start eating meat. This was, a difficult thing for me to reconcile in my brain and in my heart. But I knew for probably 3 years that I needed to start doing this. And finally, one day I was talking to my friend Tia, who is a herbalist and nutritionist, and I was telling her my feet were hurting all the time and I couldn't figure out why. And she's like, you need to check your blood sugar. And so December 1, I woke up last year, 2019, and I checked my blood sugar for the first time, and my fasting blood sugar was 1 point below diabetes.
Oh, Jesus.
I was at the top of the pre-diabetic range, and I thought, uh-oh, this is very bad. And that was the day I decided to start eating meat. I was cooking bacon for my kids, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. I had 8 pieces.
That's a good
and
start.
I just devoured meat. Yes, it was
Bacon's
a great
good
start.
place to start.
And I started with bacon, and then I started. Oh, it was amazing. I mean, my body needed it. And I just devoured meat. I mean, I ate it, and I just listened to my body. And it wasn't until about 3 months ago that I started eating fruit again.
Oh, wow.
And it was when I started this really intense yoga training and my body needed the carbs again. And so, I'm a big fan of listening to your body, of not being dogmatic about anything, about dietary choices, about political choices, about educational choices. Dogma is the root of institutionalism. And so if we can avoid being dogmatic and we can learn to listen to our bodies and listen to our intuition and really honor our emotions, which are our internal guidance system, and listen, like, okay, I'm out of balance. Why am I hysterically crying over this? There's something there. I need to explore it. And instead of shutting it down, finding out what the root is. Oh my gosh, I had this trauma as a child. This happened in school, or this happened at the doctor's office, and this is triggering this reaction out of me. We can really start to heal, but you have to learn to listen to your body, and you have to believe that you are the authority over your life, and that all of the answers lie within. They are there. Our DNA, our cells in our body, they have ancestral memory. The answers are there, both the answers to the traumas and the answers to the healing. It is all inside. And if you can learn to listen and really get in touch with it, you can become your own authority, and you can exist in this world as a sovereign, no matter what is going on a global scale politically. It doesn't matter. I mean, this is one of the greatest revelations that I have had in the past 5 years, probably, is that I was projecting my own lack of freedom onto everybody else through my political activism. It was, you need to give me freedom. No,
Sure.
I need to give me freedom. You need to stop being a tyrant. No, I need to stop being a tyrant. And then it went from the politics to like my relationship, this crappy marriage that I was in. And it was me projecting, you're a control freak. No, I'm a control freak, and just coming back to the realization that every time I'm pointing a finger at somebody, it's a common thing that there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. And I really, really started to integrate this into my life over the past 5 years. And I have found a level of freedom that I did not know existed when I was fighting for freedom. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. And it's fucking hard to listen to yourself, whether listen to your body, listen to your mind, whatever it is, whether it's nutrition or past hurts or even things that are, eating away at you currently. I wanted to mention this because I know a lot of people, myself included, for probably close to 2 decades, just drown it in alcohol, drugs, whatever, what have you, or even if it's not a substance, something else that you dive into, escapism of any form, because it's you start hearing that stuff that you need to address, and it can be terrifying, and it manifests very unhealthily if you don't listen and take action on fixing it. It's horrifying. I think it's more horrifying
and
not
that
to do
circles
anything.
back in the long run, yes. And it circles back to giving children the tools to deal with it. When they're told to sit down and shut up and to get over it, and it's not that big of a deal. Oh, you're being dramatic. Oh, stop it. You're just told to disregard the hurt that you're experiencing. You're not given the tools to deal with it. What do we expect? We're going to have a society of people who are escaping from their pain because they don't know how to process it, because we live in a trauma-based society and we are not given the tools to deal with that trauma, because the oppressors who are indoctrinating us in school, if they gave us the tools to deal with our traumas, they would be found out.
Sure.
And they're being found out. And so now's the time for us to come together and figure out, hey, what's working for you? Carnivore's working for you. You're feeling better. Hey, what's working for you? Yoga's working for you. Okay, you're feeling better. And oh, hey, meditation. Tell me about that. What's working for you? And we start sharing with one another. And we can teach each other how to heal. And this circles back to the Homestead Guru and the Be Your Own Guru. I mean, really, you are the authority of your own life. And the slow food movement and getting out of the corporatism. And, one of the greatest hypocrisies with the Homestead Guru is that we have Google and Amazon ads on our website. I just didn't know how else to monetize a website. And so now we decided, now that we're running as a co-op, we're like, okay, what do we do? Well, we're trying to create products. We're trying to create things that we can monetize the store with that aren't selling out to the elite corporate Google and Amazon God Almighty. And so, we're doing things like writing PDFs, ebooks, that we can sell to people, compiling this knowledge. I put together a whole life detox program. This is a class that I used to teach in real life before COVID at Anarchapulco and Libertopia and Porcupine Freedom Festival and different workshops. And now we've moved that online. Lily's been instrumental in helping me with that, because as I said, I don't have I use a lot of technology, but my brain, like building an online store, is one of the most frustrating, overwhelming things I've ever done in my life. And the first store I built didn't work. And so,
Sure.
We help each other. Lily came in and filled in the gap, and we're teaching each other. And so we're trying to move away. We're trying to become more consistent. And that for me it's the path. It's like, every day, what step can I take toward becoming more consistent? What step can I take toward healing? How can I be more authentic? How can I be more in my integrity? And as I do this and model this for my children, and I humble myself to my children. If I snap at my kids, I say, hey, I just snapped at you. And that's not about you. That's about me. And I own that. Like, I'm stressed out today and I regret that happened. And, can we move forward? Having a parent who owns their shit allows us to raise a generation of children who will own their shit. And I don't know if you've heard the term gaslighting.
Oh,
have you heard
yes.
that term? Does your audience know that term?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, and this is something I think is so common, is that adults gaslight children all day, every day,
Oh, yeah.
whether it's through school, church, family, whatever. And if we can move away from that and just move into a state of radical honesty, I screwed up. Doesn't it feel good to hear someone say they screwed up? I mean, really, it feels so good. Like when you have to convince someone that they did something shitty, that's a horrible relationship. That's a horrible situation to be in. And so surrounding ourselves with people who are willing to admit where they messed up, this is huge. And if as a movement, we can start stepping more into our integrity, because here's another tangent, but just the hypocrisy of the liberty movement over the course of history, it's disgusting. How many thought leaders are there out there that are talking the talk and not walking the walk? Like, shut up, sit down and get your shit together before you start preaching to me about how to live a life of liberty.
Well, yeah, it's the problem with the quote unquote liberty movement in general. And that's something I've railed on the show quite a bit. I did want to circle back real quick to what you were saying about how you felt about the Google and Amazon ads. And I'm pretty Konkin. I'm with Konkin on taking money from just about anywhere as long as you're not contributing back to them. And that's probably one of my more controversial opinions that I've shared on the show multiple times. And that it's up to and including government. If you're taking from them and not giving back, I don't see a problem with that. I see that as part of fighting the fight. Death of 1,000 cuts.
My ideas on this have evolved. I was a starving activist who got pregnant, had children, did not have the support system of food stamps, did not have the support system of government aid, because I was very dogmatic and very in my zone of liberty, liberty, liberty. I'm not going to participate in that because I am, a libertarian. But I agree with you at this point. If you're taking back from an institution that is hurting you, go for it. But the truth is, with Google and Amazon, I give them a lot more than they give me. The percentage of what they give me is very low. And I would rather be selling a program that you put on than selling a trinket that Google thinks you need to buy. I would rather sell Lily's hand crocheted water bottle holder than some crap Amazon thinks people should buy. And so, this is just, it's another step in my evolution. It's where I'm trying to go. I agree with you 100% on take from them, as long as you're not contributing to it. And that has definitely evolved for me. I mean, I came from a place, when I look back on the early days of being a mother, and I think about how rigid I was with my ideals and how much I suffered because of it. I live in a world where it's very hard to find employment if you've been arrested twice and there's videos of it all over the internet. It's really hard. I mean, there was this YouTube video that popped up first on when you searched my name for years and years and years. It said marijuana hottie released from jail.
Oh,
this is before it was legal anywhere. It was like, and I wasn't even arrested for marijuana. I was videotaping the police arresting someone who was, so it's like, I live in a world where my options were severely limited, and I was so dogmatic about my principled stance on participating in government aid that I didn't receive help when I really, really needed it. And the truth is, the liberty movement doesn't have that support system in place. And so if you need to take the stimulus check because you need to take care of your family, or you want to invest in your business or whatever, do it. Like, the whole system's collapsing anyway. Why do you think they're doing this? Why do you think they're bailing out individuals? Because they know that their paper money is going up in smokes. This is like the longest lasting fiat dollar to ever live in the history of the planet. It's on its way out. So, play the game. I like to say, I'm an alchemist. So I took that stimulus money and I turned it into something else. Like, give me your corrupt paper dollar. I don't care. I'm going to do something magical with it. And in fact, I filled out for the first time in like 13 years a simple tax return with $0 income, and I got my stimulus my stimulus money. So and it just so happened I was a stay-at-home mom for so long that I really didn't have to file taxes this whole time. And I'm grateful for that. That's, one of the things that I've been through. But, like, I made the choice to put myself on their radar, to take those resources and transmute them into something else. And we can all live as alchemists. We can all take something yucky and turn it into something beautiful. We don't have to run away from it because it's yucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And the shaming over that, specifically the stimulus in the liberty movement, was just absolutely asinine. And I saw a lot of other alchemists doing their thing, from, preps to gold to silver to lead and steel. You change it into something useful, something that you're going to need. But we're coming up on the end of recording time. I'm sure we could probably go for a good 4 or 5 hours. You're very interesting to listen to and talk to. But before we come up to the hour,
thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again because 1 hour is never enough for these kind of shows. But before we get to the end of the hour, I want you to plug all the projects that you've got going so people can find all the good information that you're putting out there.
Okay, absolutely. And thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
TheHomestead.guru is the first and foremost. Go check it out, dig through the information, learn about gardening, getting off the grid, crafting recipes, whatever your heart desires. You can probably find it there on the Homestead Guru. We also just launched my online whole life detox course, which you can find on TheHomestead.guru. There's also a link in my Instagram profile that will take you there. My Instagram is rewild.child, and the Homestead Guru also has the homestead.guru on Instagram. And then we, of course, are on Float and the Hive blockchain with Peaked. So you can find us there. A lot of that is the same content from our blog, but we are trying to build into those networks that are getting away from Facebook and all of that. And of course, if you're on the Book of Faces, we've got 22,000 followers on our Homestead Guru page. You can follow us there. We do post things there. We auto push a lot of stuff to there and post a lot of memes and things like that. But really, our heart and soul is with the website. You can join our email list and follow us on Instagram. And I do have a podcast at myuntamed.life. That's a website.
Excellent. All good stuff. All good stuff, I'm sure. I'm going to take a deeper dive into your projects than I was able to before this show because I'm interested. I want to see a lot of this stuff. And y'all listening should too. From what I'm seeing, just a little bit, super impressed. Really awesome stuff. And after this conversation, if you can't bring yourself to do that, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, thanks for coming on the show. It was great. We're going to jump into a short recording for my patrons. If you want to see that recording, I guess it'll be more of a listen recording this time, but that's fine. There's some of those on there already. Patreon.com/Beyond the Ballot. I would appreciate that. Going to have a goal up there to get some better camera equipment and get out there to a lot of these events, protests, what have you, all over the place and start putting that content up as well. All right, Kat, thank you very much for coming on. You ready for the after hours?
I am. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. We'll see you all in the after hours.
Professional anarchist.
You guys are getting paid?
Beyond the Ballot is sponsored by Project Sparta. Go to projectspartacoaching.com now to learn more and get on your path to health.